Okay, we're getting ready to start about the Collab Center. And before we get to doing anything, I'm going to play you a short video as an overview about the Collab Center.
The Collaboration Center is a public portal making it easy for you to engage with your buyers and sellers. It delivers search, notifications, and reporting capabilities for your clients while keeping you connected every step of the way. There are two sides to the Collaboration Center.
Let's try this. Hopefully I don't lose my ability to play outside and the other. Let's see.
Buyer activity and seller activity. Let's begin with buyer activity. Within Paragon, you can create saved searches and easily attach those searches to contacts. Once you turn on the Collaboration Center for that contact, you can set a schedule for them to receive emails automatically. Those emails include updates on new listings, price changes, open houses, and other details. Within the emails is access to a portal, the Collaboration Center. Buyers can review photos and property details, as well as communicate and set up showings directly with you. Plus, they won't have to wait for you to supply listing attachments, as public documents are included. Clients can take two listings and compare them side by side, helping to make the decision of which will work for them. As they review listings, buyers can categorize each, showing you which properties they love most and which properties may not work, helping you determine exactly what your buyers need. Let's say your client is a family looking for their new home. The whole family can be included in the experience with the ability to create their own folders. They can even email the listing and share it on Facebook, opening it to family and friends in helping them decide on a new home, plus showcasing what you've set up for them to their network. We know your buyers may provide you with criteria of what they're looking for, but they still like to see for themselves what else is out there. The client search empowers them to run their own searches using the real-time data from your MLS. With the Collaboration Center, your clients can stay engaged in the home buying experience without having to visit other websites. They can draw a shape on the map and enter specific criteria and even save the search.
I'm going to pause the video right for that moment. So the power of that, if you can get them off other websites, they're not going to stumble upon other agents.
Is that, so are those all the listings that they're looking at, are they strictly that agent's listing?
No.
They're all the listings in
everything in the MLS.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll continue, but I just wanted to point out the benefit of using that and getting them to like the site.
You'll see in Paragon what they are searching, giving you a detailed look at their preferences. In short, with buyer activity, your clients can collaborate with you and access the real-time listing inventory they need to effectively find the home of their dreams. Now let's take a look at your sellers. Your sellers are likely curious as to how their listing is doing, and they may often reach out to you for that data. Set up seller activity so the data comes to them automatically. When you save a listing, you have the option to associate that property to a contact. Through the Actions shortcut, you can assign that listing to a particular contact. In Contacts, go to the Seller Activity folder, and you'll find the listing has been assigned. Simply enable the sell side and send the welcome email to the contact. This will set up the Collaboration Center for your seller. They'll receive a weekly or daily email and access to the portal. Within the Collaboration Center, your sellers can review real-time listing analytics on their property and can check in as often as they'd like. They can check up on how many views the listing has received and how consumers are sorting their property. They'll see how many agent and consumer views, as well as how many people are talking about it and additional valuable data. Plus, they can see competition as the system aggregates listings in the area that are similar to their own. If your client is both a buyer and a seller, they go to one portal to view everything. Just by easily toggling between seller and buyer tabs, you've provided access to everything they need in one spot. Start using the Collaboration Center today and provide for your clients inventory and performance analytics directly from the source, you and your MLS.
So hopefully that video just gives you a good overview for it and why I want to get more buyers agents using it, because then that's going to help feed them real-time information for the seller as well. And today we're just going to focus on the seller side. So the first thing of the, go ahead.
On the buyer side, so you can add suggestions in there, but then they can also do their own search.
Yes. And that's how you set it up to allow them to do that or not. Okay. So we're going to go through the preferences first. So the first handout that I gave you is the setup wizard. So if you go to, ours shows preferences, not system. So you're going to click on your, you know what, I need to make sure I do a new share that I'm sharing this for sure. Go to preferences and then go to Collab Center. Okay. And we may have done some of this for you, Aaron, but we'll review it to make sure. So the first thing is make sure your full name is in there the way you want it. Then if you scroll down, the primary phone number you want to display. And I have always unchecked the secondary phone number. If you have an office number, you don't need to have the office number display, just yours. And then if you keep scrolling down, I have it checked to display my email address and my web page. Now your web page setup is through PAR that you've got to add under details view, and that feeds over to the MLS system. So if you don't have a website yet, you'll link in there. You'll want to set that up. I've never done a video story, so I don't know on that one. But then if you have social networks that you want to link to, the only one I've added right now is Facebook, but you can add more for that. And then your agent image, that should probably be there, but anything that you want to do or you do after you do it is make sure you always hit save. The next thing is clicking over here on the About Me message page. So if you have a bio, anything you want to share with them, they give you an example here. About giving an example to help you find the listing you'd be searching for, but I think it could be used for both. So I'd probably have it both ways with buyers and sellers. And then if you click on links, this is where you can add also a link to your website or other type of links that you might want to include. The office information. See, I don't have any displaying their information except for the office address and the office logo. To be more about you. And then you get into notification options. Not all of this is even in their wizard. So the top section is, what do you want to be notified of? So if there's a new listing that matches the search criteria that comes on, price change, status change, Do you want to be notified if they favorite a listing, if they mark a listing as a possible, if they reject something, or if they add any comments, or if they set up any new searches or modify a search? Okay, those are up to you. Then down below, notifications to the client. What do you want them to get an email notification about? So mine, I just have new listings, price changes, and comments added by the agent. I don't want to notify them about an open house because I don't want them to go to an open house. You know, they might, and you're going to instruct your buyers to, if they tend to always say they're working with you, you're representing them when they first go in, just let me go do their searches. So I don't want to promote them going to open houses. Okay. Then the next section is your search options. So if I enable this for my buyer, I would make it new only listings. And what class do they want to search? And what will you let them search in Collab Center? So in my situation, I would probably uncheck solds, but maybe just active and pending listings. You know, you may even decide you only want them to see actives, and that's it. It's up to you. And then you can save that. So these settings will be the same no matter what client is entered in the system. And again, you saw how easy it is to go back. You can always change these at any time. Okay. Before we go on going through setting up a seller for Collab Center, because I do have a listing I should do that on, so I'm going to walk through that. First thing I want you to go over though on your preferences is go to email and go to message body. So I have several in here. The first one I have as my default is a listing notice. So if I am emailing a buyer directly, here's a new or changed listing that meets your search criteria. If I'm doing it that way through a direct email, that's the verbiage that is going to go to them. Okay. My next one that I have is comps. So I often will, if I do a market analysis for a seller, I'll often email them the full listing sheets, the client full one, not the agent full one, for them to review. So they can see inside pictures. They can read the things about updates and other things like that. So I may have already sent them or reviewed the market analysis, but I also, before we make a pricing decision, I want you to review these as well. Okay. Then I have one Collab Center for buyers. So when I set up my buyers in the Collab Center, then I am going to put this language into my email welcome message that I send. I even made myself a note to see if there's a way to break out the video I just showed you into 2 segments, because I think it would be helpful to send the seller side to sellers to say, here's what it means to you, and the buyers to buyers of what they can do with it. But they don't need to see both sides unless they happen to be both client, client on both sides. So let's see if there's a way to do that. Are you writing it, Emily?
I'm just writing like,
okay.
Yeah.
I can always send it to you if you want. And then I have one for Collab Center for sellers. So click on the link to create a password, give you access to a website specifically designed for you to see activity on your listing from the MLS. It will report agent and consumer views as well as consumer activity when they favorite or reject a property. So tell them, what is this about? Why should they even do this? Okay.
I have one set up too when you're doing it if you want to see.
Okay.
So I just copied hers.
And then come up with your own wording. But that way, if you have these messages saved in here, you don't have to be creative every time you send something out.
Yes.
Just helps you get some of that set up.
Yeah.
All right. So the first thing, remember it said connect with a client. So the first thing I have to do is add a contact if I don't have the person already in here, which I know I don't. But I'm going to go to, so I can just copy and paste transaction desk. And I'm going to go to the listing. So I can just grab my client's information, especially anytime that I am doing emails. I prefer to copy and paste versus having to type them in case I get them wrong. Once I know I have it in something right. So this client is Brandy Blackmore. I'm going to mark that she is a seller. Okay. I don't use the rest of it for phone numbers or anything else, just to have the email address in so the Collab Center will work. You don't have to have your data everywhere multiple times. So I'm going to hit save. And now it's going to say, do I want to associate that property with this client? So on a buyer, you wouldn't have one, but on my seller, I can. So I'm going to click on that. And it's going to pull up my active listings. So I'm going to select the one on Lang that is hers and save it. Okay. So now I have that ability to enable the sales side. I'm going to enable that. And now send that welcome email that they showed you in the video. So instead of this message, because that's not the message I want to send them, I'm going to delete that one because that's my default one. I'm going to go to message body and Collab Center for sellers. And now it just put that wording in. Okay, so I don't have to again type it and think about what am I going to say. I'll hit a preview so you can see what that's going to look like. So welcome. There's my message. Tells them create a password. Where the comps come from. Okay. I never did this one because it went pending right away. And now it's back on the market. So I thought this is a perfect time for me to set that up. So now I'm going to hit send. Close. Then I can go down here to enable this email report. So I'm going to click enable. And I want to send it just weekly. So it's going to come to me weekly and it's going to come to them weekly. I think daily is overkill on when it goes out so they can see activity on their property. Okay.
Is the activity coming, where's the activity coming from?
From the MLS. So I'll show you an example of one as well. Okay. And I do have for you some instructions that you can have and go through, but I think if you follow it, it's pretty explanatory step by step, but I wanted you to have a handout as well too.
Okay.
So I'm going to close this now. I've got all that set up. And back at my contacts, if you have a site set up, you're going to see view. Okay. So this one is for a seller. So I'm going to click view on it. And you won't be able to see that button until they go in and acknowledge that. So this particular property has had 980 listing views. It's been on the market 78 days and 3 open houses. So when we add an open house to Paragon, and that's how we do our open houses now, because then it gets distributed to the various websites. We only have to put it in one place. It then gets recorded here too, that you've had an open house. So here's the listing views. So you can see last 14 days, last 30 days, last 90 days. They can switch that if they want to see what's been going on. Now, what's interesting, I'm going to go back last 90 days. Remember how we always tell sellers how the activity at the beginning is usually highest, but in this particular one, it bumped up right here in week 12 with real estate views, probably because we had a price reduction. Okay. But you can see real estate views, prospective buyers, and these green marks are where we've had price reductions. Okay, so I'll go back to 14 days. then it breaks it out like that. Okay. Then showing time activity. So it links to that as well. One spot to show how many showings the last 7 days, 30 days, total showings, and how many of those we got feedback on. Then buyer's activity. So 122 of it marked as undecided, 12 have rejected it, 1 is a possible, but no one's favorited this listing yet that's using the Collab Center. And then it breaks it down to how many real estate agent views versus prospective buyer views.
So where would the person that's favoriting it favorite?
On the Collab Center. So I'll show you a buyer side too, so you can see where they would do that.
So basically, the only people that this reports to is buyers that are using the Collab Center?
Well, this would be view all over because they've listed they haven't necessarily used the Collab Center. But this is coming from what they've done through the Collab Center. And that's why my goal is to get more and more agents to use that with their buyers, show them why it's a benefit to them.
Okay.
Because it used to be we just send them email listings and they click on it and you can see hit counts.
Right.
Which, let me go here to Paragon real quick. I assume hopefully online audience can see this as well. Let me go to my listing. Let's see how the numbers match. So I'll go back to my Oak Glen. And one of the reports we have set up is an RTU hit count view. So see, it only shows 182 client views and 158 listing views, and that might be clicking on this listing, whereas on this, it's a lot more. So maybe they've, keep clicking on it, looking at it, something. So there's more activity you see through the Collab Center. And then how many agents have recommended it? It's saved in a search this many times. Then other social activity. Okay. And I don't mind, and I probably explained to my seller as far as Facebook views, because I don't post the listing from Paragon to Facebook. I do it from other sources. I encourage you not to either. Okay. So that's what a seller side would look like, so they got a lot of real-time activity. Then there's a tab called competition that they believe would show similar properties that might attract buyers to their property. They can zoom in on this and actually click and look at, some of the listing information about it. Okay. I think the activity part is more important. Then over here, that's just the seller side activity. Okay. So I'll close that one and then show you what it looks like for a buyer side. I did have Brandy in there. I did better than I thought, but I don't need this one because I didn't even. All right, so here's a buyer one that's had some activity. So let me click on it. So you can say multiple searches for a buyer. What's nice also about the Collab Center is this is talking about all saved searches, but I can change this from property that they're looking at to possibly flip, and that it only is talking about those houses, or things that they're looking for in Tazewell County. So if they want to separate out to look through the different listings. So you can see on this one, they don't have any marked as favorites. They've got some undecided. But then if I go to the flip one, they have some marked as favorites. So if I click on that, you can see what it is they're tracking, sort of what they like the best by clicking on that tab.
And do you set them up in Collab Center the same way as you do the seller?
Yeah, you'll set it up, but you'll set up a search for them of what notifications they're going to get for listings. Okay. And this is where they can do, there's custom folders and communication, and a lot of them haven't used that, but they've used more about the listing activity and favoriting things. Because I do that on other websites too, realtor.com. You can say favorite stuff. They're used to favoriting things. So it's set up in a similar manner. Okay. One thing that I don't have on here, let me see if I can figure it out. So I'm going to do this by the seat of my pants. Is let's go in here and I'll let them know. I'm going to go to market activity. All right, so that is, let me see if I can copy that MLS number. It's not easy to do. Go back to my contacts. I'm gonna go back to Putney's. And I can always view Collab Center right there as well. So I'm gonna go down to agent recommended. You see where that is? And I'm gonna add a listing. So I'm putting in that MLS number I just copied and say, okay. And now it's got one added there. Okay. So let's see how fast it appears on their site. Go to view Collab Center. Yep. And there's my agent pick. So if there's something you really want them to pay attention to, you can do it that way and say, hey, I put something over here that I think is something that's really good for you. Now I got to see if I can remove it before I get a text from, what are you talking about? Why do you think I should look at this one? I haven't tried to undo them. Add a listing. And that just brings it up. I don't know. I guess I'll have to figure out how to remove it or just tell.
Mark over there?
There's nothing over here.
When you were in the listing, there was a check mark.
That's, yeah, that doesn't do that. Yeah. That one, if you're in it and you have multiple listings, then you can check this. I can try it and see if in their actions it does anything. No, it doesn't say to remove it from the other. That's okay. They're friends of mine. I can say, here's, I used you as a test guinea pig. I should have done it to one I had set up with my husband. I wasn't thinking about it. Just to make sure I could do it. As I think that's a neat feature, you know, as well. You asked me something about the buyers. Yeah, so essentially for the buyer, and if you watched the video, it walked you through the buyer side. And when you have one, I'm happy to sit down with you and make sure it gets set up so the notifications go out. But essentially, if I go to buyer activity, there's the search criteria for their flip house one. I can edit the search right now, remove it if they don't no longer want to have that one. But I can see again right here the matches, undecided, favorites, etc. Okay. But today was more focused just on the seller side. So we can get more of our agents communicating and having a, you know, a real good tie-in with your sellers of here's what I'm doing. It's gonna be maybe one of our shortest luncheon. Any questions? Okay, I'm gonna